Hello guys, welcome to today's video. We are gonna discuss our question maximum consecutive ones, the first part of it. So let's discuss our question. In the input we are given an array that only contains 0 and 1. What we are required to find is the maximum number of consecutive ones in the given array if we can flip at most 1 0. So first, let's not talk about this if you can flip at most 1 0. Let's just simply think of the first part, which is to find the maximum number of consecutive one. Okay, so let's understand it. Let's say we are given an array. So let me create an array. 1 0 1 0 1 1 1. So now let's just talk about how we will calculate, like what it will be if we want to calculate maximum number of consecutive ones. Right? If that's our task, what is that in our array, in our given array? So we know the maximum number of ones, maximum number of consecutive ones will be these three, these set, and our answer will be 3. Right? If we calculate maximum consecutive ones. But this time, what's the catch is that we have a special power. What is that power? That we can flip at most 1 0. So that means we can flip 1 0. We are eligible enough, we can flip 1 0. Okay. So let's see if we have the power to flip 1 0, what will change? Okay. So for this input, our current maximum consecutive ones is equal to 3. Right. Now we have a power to flip 1 0. So let's say we flip this 0. So what will happen? This 0 is going to become 1. Right. So now if we again find the maximum consecutive ones, what it will be? It will be 5 this time. This set. Right. It is going to become 5. So that's our question. Here it is mentioned, as you can see, that we can flip at most 1 0. Right. So we are required to calculate the maximum number of consecutive ones if we can flip 1 0. Perfect. I hope that you have understood the question. Okay. Now we are going to discuss how we are going to approach our problem. Okay. So for that, I will create an array. Okay. So let's create an array. Then we will understand that how we can approach our problem. So have some patience till we make our array. So this is our array. Right. Of what elements? It contains only 0 and 1. Of course. So let's create it. 1 0. Let's say this is our array. Let me also define the indexes. 0th index, first index, second index, third index, fourth and fifth. Now again, I want to remind you, what's our task? To find the maximum number of consecutive zeros if we are allowed to flip 1 0. Perfect. So what we are going to do? You know that of course we are going to traverse. Okay. So let's manually talk about what we are going to do. So for example, let's say we are going to traverse using I. So let's say this is our I. Right. So in the start we are at 0. Right. 0th index. And we see that it's 1. So of course 1 can be our length. Right. So here its length is going to be 1. Perfect. Now we get to the first index. Now as we can see, it is 0. But we haven't got any 0 yet. We are allowed to flip 1 0. So by that, you get the idea that we will be requiring to know how much zeros we have included. So for that, we will be creating a variable. I'm gonna call it zeros count. So this will also be needing. So now, as here it is 0, so I'm going to increase my count. It's going to become 1. Perfect. So here also 1 0, and this can be a part of your answer, right? 1 0. Also, we have to provide the count at the end of the day, but we are just understanding it, what we can do. Now you reach our second index. Again, it is 1, so of course you can include. Right. Now comes the part. So now where I gets to third index and there 0 is present. But how many zeros we are allowed? We were allowed to include only 1 0. to flip 1 0 and make it 1. So here this won't be valid, right? This won't be valid. But what if I want to include this 0? So for that, what I got to do is exclude this 0, right? So to exclude this 0. So exclude this 0 means I can say starting from here, right? That I won't include this 0, right? So if I won't include this 0, that means starting from here, right? And making my answer again. So let's see how we are gonna tackle our problem. I hope that you have understood what I'm trying to say. So here we have already included our 0, right? So if you want to include this 0, right? So we gotta exclude this 0, right? So for that, let's see what we are gonna do. Okay. Let's see how we are gonna tackle our problem. Now, before that, let's say I want you to see this example. Let's say we got an array which only got one element, that is 1, right? And we are traversing, our I is here. Now, what will be our answer? Maximum number of consecutive ones if our array is of one size and got one element. So if we know that our answer here will be equal to 1, right? But how we can calculate it, right? Because we are at the 0th index, right? We are at the 0th index. So what can we say that? Let's say we got a variable j that is initially -1. J is initially -1. So to calculate my answer, if I say my index, right, I, that is I minus j. So by using this, will I get my length? Let's see. So my I is 0 minus -1. So you know, minus minus will become plus and we are gonna get 1. Right. So we are gonna do something similar this time. Right. And this will also help us to tackle our problem. Let's see how. Okay. So again, we are gonna traverse again. This is our I. And this time we are also going to create a j variable that initially got -1 value. Okay. Now what we are required to calculate is the length, right? Let me write length here. Okay. Now let's see what we are going to do this time. Okay. So our I is 0. To calculate my length, what was my formula? Let me write it again. It was simple as, let me write length is equal to I minus j. So we'll do nothing and use this formula to calculate our length. And ultimately, what we are required to find is the max length, right? So let's do it. So my I is here. My length will be 0 minus 1, 0 minus -1. So my length will become 1. Perfect. Then what's going to happen? My I will reach, my I will reach from here to here. Then again, it's 1 0, right? So I'm going to increase my 0 count to 1 and I can include this, right? So my length will be 2. Okay. So let me drag it above. Yeah. Now it's 1. My I will get here and I can include as it's a 1, right? So my length is going to become 3. Now comes the part. My I gets to 0. But if my I gets to 0, I see that my count is already 1. That means I can't include it, right? So what I'm going to do this time is get this j to where? To a 0, right? So that means if my j is here, so I can calculate my answer from, again, it is acting as a boundary, right? J is acting as the boundary. So that means you are not including this element. Starting from here, you can calculate your answer again. Right? I hope you are getting what I'm trying to say here. So here we are at I, at the 3rd index, and we are including this time. So if we again calculate our length, it will be 3 minus 1. We know it will be 3 minus 1. And 3 minus 1 is 2. And we know that if we are here, that the max length is 2 and 3, right? We can include this. So that's how we are getting our answer. So here the length will be 2. Then again, we will increase our I. We can definitely include it. Our length will become, here at this point, our length becomes 3, right? And if we get here, we cannot definitely include this. Our length will be I minus j. 5 minus 1, that is 4. Now we get to a 0. So if we get to a 0, what we do? We increase our j till the next 0. Why is that? Because we want to exclude our previous 0 so that we can include this. So our j will get here. Right? Our j will get here. Now again, here if I try to calculate using our formula I minus j, we will get 6 minus 3, that is 3. As you can see, 3 consecutive elements, one flip is allowed, right? You can flip 1 0, so you are gonna get this. So what will be my total answer? That is going to the max length, that was 4. So for that, I'm going to take a max variable. So my answer, max consecutive ones will be equal to 4, right? Now it's a simple code. We have discussed it. Let's write the code for it. Okay, so let's write the code. What we'll be needing is 0 count, right? That how many 0 we have faced, that is initially 0. We'll be needing a j, that is initially minus 1. What else? We'll be needing we'll be needing a max variable to store our max count. So let's call it max c. That is also 0. Now what we are going to do, we are going to traverse our array. Int I is equal to 0, I is less than array dot length I plus plus. Now what you do, if the element is equal to 0, we do nothing, we simply increase our 0 count, right? If you are at the element whose value is equal to 0, then we simply increase our 0 count. Now what we got to do is take care of our j. So if you are including this element, so you got to keep increasing your j till the next 0. So while j, when this happens, while z count is equal to 1, right? As we are allowed only 1 0. So what we are going to do, increase our j till when? Till array of j is equal to 0. And whenever it hits 0 condition, we are simply gonna decrease our z count, right? And then we get out of the loop. Now we calculate our length. And to calculate our length, we had simple formula I minus j, right? And we are required to calculate the max length. So we are gonna update our max variable, whichever is greater, my length or the length I've gotten till now, right? And after all the tasks, let me full screen it. After all the tasks are completed, we do nothing and simply return our max. Simple as that. Now let's try to run our code and see if this works or not. Giving an error. Let's find the error. It was max c, as you can see here. So let me write max c. Okay. Wrong answer. Why is that? Let's find it. Right. Very silly mistake here. It was of course array of I. Now let's run it. Should work now. Perfect. Accepted. Now submit it. Submitted. Now let's discuss our code. That the code is very similar to the approach that we discussed, but still I would like to discuss it. Let's see. So here let me create some space and let me copy my code. Here's our code. Okay, so let's see what we are doing. Yeah, so we are doing nothing, simply traversing, right? And if array I that our if like our 0 count is initially 0, right? And whenever we get a 0, right? Whenever we get a 0, we increase it. So let's discuss this step by step. Okay, So here what we do, we are at the 0th index. This condition is not true, it is not 0. And our z count is not greater than 1. So we simply calculate our length. Our length will be 1 minus minus 1, that is 1. Right? And we are going to compare it with our max length, that is initially 0. So our max length will be equal to 1. Right? Then what? We get to a first index and we got our value that is equal to 0. So we are going to simply increase 0 count to 1. Perfect. We increased 0 count to 1. Now we see if 0 count is greater than 1, no it is not. Then we are going to simply calculate our length. What will be our length? Our length will be 2. Right? Why 2? Our length formula is I minus j. 1 minus minus 1, that gives us 2. Perfect. Now we reach here. Again we calculate our length. All those conditions are not true. So our length will be equal to 3. Okay, let me erase it too. Now, see, our j is currently here and I gets here. If I gets here, it's c. That this time it's 0. So we increase our 0 count to 2. Right? And now we check. If our 0 count is greater than 1, yes, it is greater than 1. So we are going to keep increasing our j. Till what? Till it is not equal to 0. So here it is not equal to 0. So we are going to simply increase it again. And here it is equal to 0. So if it is equal to 0, we decrease our 0 count to 1. Right? We decrease our 0 count to 1. Now again, we calculate our length. Our length will be equal to I minus j. That is 3 minus 1. So our length will be 2. Also, don't forget to update your max length. Our max length until now is 3. Right? Now you get our I gets to, our I gets to 4, fourth index. So of course these conditions won't match. Our 0 count is currently 1. We are going to increase it to 3. Again, these conditions will not work. We are simply going to calculate its length. That is going to give us 4. That is 5 minus 1. That is 4. We will update our max length. Perfect. Now what happens? Our I get to 6th index and it is 0. Right? It is 0. So we are going to do is update our 0 count. Our 0 count will be equal to 2. Perfect. Now we check that 0 count is greater than 1. So what we have to do is increase our j until it is equal to 0. So our j will get here. Right? And then we are going to decrease our 0 count. Right? It is going to equal to 1. And then we calculate its length. What will be its length? I minus j. That is 6 minus 3. It is going to give us 3. So ultimately we got our max length 4 and we are going to simply return it. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, do not forget to like, comment and share. Thanks for watching.